Welcome to MSP Unplugged's Emerging Vendor Series. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. Join us in this new series highlighting ConnectWise PitchIT contestants as we highlight an emerging vendor who is changing the game and making a big impact in the MSP space. But before we go into that, I like to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is TechCon Unplugged. TechCon Unplugged will be in Woodbridge, New Jersey, September 7th through the 10th at the Delta Hotels Woodbridge. It is our fourth annual show, and what can you expect? Well, you can join us for an evening mixer as we kick off 2.5 days of content to help your business save money, save time, but most importantly, improve services. This show is for any size IT solution provider on either end of the scale, and this is definitely where a lot of people are saying is the place for you. Head over to get your tickets now. We're on our second tier pricing up until the end of this month at $299. If you are part of the online community or supporting us via Patreon, you do have a discount code for your entry of admission. So feel free to go over to techconunplugged.com, get your tickets today. All right. It's another Emerging Vendor Series show. We all know what that means. Let me go ahead and introduce one of my favorite people, the one, the only, Sean Lardo, Economy Evangelist over at ConnectWise. Sean, how are you today, my friend?
You know what? I'm doing great, Paco. And I want to make sure we give a special shout out to the fact that you're supposed to be on vacation and you're putting in the extra hours to do this. As a great friend of mine, I totally appreciate it. And I hope that all these vendors that are working with us are going to show you equally as much gratitude and maybe send you some gifts or something. I don't know, whatever. But yeah,
I will tell you that I appreciate it. You know, I am a man of my word and commitment for what we're doing for our emerging vendor series, and especially to highlight a lot of the emerging vendors. And that's all we're all about here, is for community and highlighting those that do need the exposure or hopefully connect great people with great vendors as well. But who are we talking about today? Well, we have Rob Scott over at Monjur. Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. Now, Rob, why don't you kind of, for our listeners and for those watching the podcast, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit about your origin story of how you got into the space and how Monjur came to be?
So I'm the managing partner of a law firm that was started in 1999, and we focus exclusively on tech law. And as part of that, I began representing managed service providers and hosting companies all the way back in the early 2000s. And a large part of my practice over the years, because of my affiliation with the MSP Alliance and other groups, involved many engagements with MSPs where their first legal priority was to have us review and update their customer contracts. We helped many MSPs in the old days migrate from break fix to managed services. We've helped legacy VoIP businesses get into managed services. We've helped office equipment companies get into managed services, and we've helped accounting firms get into managed services. But the first engagement and frequently the most and biggest priority from a legal perspective from MSP was always, I need customer contracts. And so for roughly 20 years, I used the traditional legal model of, drafting agreements, starting with our internal templates, drafting customizations for each client, and then using email and Word documents to deliver those to those clients. And then 15 months ago, we developed the Monjur platform, which eliminates the need for lawyers to use email and Word documents and allows us to deliver our legal agreements on smart hyperlinks that we can maintain and update for our clients that live directly in their sales tools, such as ConnectWise CPQ, which is why we're part of the PitchIT competition. Is one of our first priorities from an integration perspective was an integration between our legal platform and ConnectWise CPQ, formerly known as ConnectWise Sell.
Gotcha. Now, talking about the PitchIT program, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found out about the program and what made you decide to go through it?
Well, I was lucky enough to be there in person last year at IT Nation Connect, and the energy in the room the atmosphere, the excitement, just the quality of the contestants and the role that people had in it was really fascinating to me. And I got just caught up in the energy of it and began to visualize myself as one of those contestants on the stage telling our story, and frankly, to visualize myself on that stage and winning the award. And so from that perspective, I got very interested in joining and getting started.
Very cool. Now, you're going through the program right now. What do you think about the program thus far, going into it firsthand, and what are you looking to accomplish from it outside of obviously making sure that you win the gold and get that first place spot over there in November?
I'll be honest with you, the value of the program is a lot like what ConnectWise does in the community, is more about the community and the knowledge and the learnings, more so than winning or any prize. They're bringing to us world-class content, educational content from industry experts, and those people are literally donating their time to train us on the cutting edge of where we are in the industry and to guide us in our decision making as we make important decisions about our futures. And I would say that that's the most valuable part of the contest, which is, this is an incubator program. This is not just a contest. This is an incubator. And the value is really in the incubation and the connections that you make, the relationships that you build as part of the process. We're already, for example, in talks with one of the other companies about doing an integration and a partnership. And the fact that they're in PitchIT is a significant influencer in our interest in pursuing such a relationship.
Going back to what you just mentioned, I think in the previous episodes we've highlighted, how much this program has grown, Sean. But Rob makes a very good point that this is not only a competition for contestants to try and achieve exposure, but there's really this program that's helping them in an incubator role. And so there are other people that have been assembled to help them along the way. Can you dive in a little bit about what you've done to try and really get good people on really helping these emerging vendors understand the MSP space?
Sure. Somebody's got some music going. Yeah. Awesome. That's right, Rob. Get them. So really simply put, man, we were looking for the staying power, as I mentioned before in one of our episodes, right? We wanted vendors that were going to be able to be not just coin operated, but they were going to be involved and have to be able to last. You can't replace your family all the time, right? You can't keep on rinse and repeat, replace, right? So, but with that though, part of the thing, this 16-week incubator program, we started to reach out to a lot of good friends that I have in the space. People like we had Jay McBain speak about what to do here, right? He just did this past Wednesday, he was part of the workshop. But we have a workshop every single week, and every single week we're bringing on somebody different that's actually they are an application. They are applying this. They are not somebody that's speaking hyperbole. They're actually practitioners, right? So everybody from Heather Margulis that started 2 companies about channel processing and channel marketing and sold those companies, again, which is right up these guys' alleys because they're all vendors that are startups. They're looking to build from scratch in a lot of cases, right? Clear through to bringing people from our side of the house, like Arlen Sorensen, talking about what modes theory, about how to identify modes so they can understand. So Rob and team can understand what the MSPs, how they're seeing things, how we're educating them. It's good to have a common message, right? It's easier for Rob to put his product in the right position whenever he knows what we're telling MSPs and educate them on how they should run their business, right? And it's complementary. It's symbiotic.
Gotcha. Now, Rob, you've obviously mentioned the great value that's been providing you and now is building up partnerships. Now, as far as for the involvement of the Monjur platform, how have you kind of taken it to market? Have you introduced this to MSP partners? How have you really highlighted its capabilities to the MSP community?
Well, we started with our existing client base. And so we called them and first apologized that we didn't build something like this sooner, but that we did have it available to them and we're eager to show them that. And we just started with calling everyone who, it was 172 firms for whom we had previously prepared their customer contracts that weren't yet on our platform. And so we just started talking to them, and we built a solution out that met their needs, that we felt was representative of the broader market. And then we started with trade shows. We sponsor a number of events, including ConnectWise events and others in the industry and the community. And so we started developing, leads through that, as well as outbound calling programs and inbound internet type marketing and retargeting activities. But we really started with our grassroots relationships with our existing client base. And then, of course, referrals, word of mouth, forums. We get prospects from other MSPs posting in forums about our solution on a regular basis. So it's a combination of existing client base and the developing net new relationships with MSPs, primarily through event sponsorship and other inbound and outbound marketing activities.
Now, as far as what Monjur does, and as far as the contracts as a service that you have highlighted on your website, can you dive into a little bit deeper of what that means? Now, I know that a lot of MSPs will try to have their agreements either from templates, or they'll find other community groups to try and assemble some of that. They've hired attorneys to create them from custom or from scratch. How does your service or platform fit into the realm of contracts as a service for an MSP, and kind of go into how that platform reacts to maybe a partner trying to join in and getting the most out of the platform?
Yeah, so I would say that in its core, Monjur is a SaaS-enabled legal service to help MSPs solve the complex problem of managing and keeping updated their customer contracts.
Okay.
And so the way we're able to deliver it is through the use of smart hyperlinks that live in their sales and marketing tools and on their website. And as a result of that, because we host and manage and maintain the documents, we're able to keep them updated. And the way we do that is we maintain master templates for each of the documents in our libraries. And we maintain those and frankly change many of them daily, if not others less frequently, could be weekly, but these are frequent changes. And then when each new client comes on, we start with our existing master templates, and we put them through a setup period where we customize all of the documents for each MSP. And then those become their online terms and conditions. And all they have to do is prepare their quotes in the normal sales process. And when their clients accept the quote, for example, in CPQ, when they hit accept within the order porter email, then they click that. And if they have our solution, then all the legal terms and conditions from the MSA through to the service attachments for the statements of work, into the data processing terms, and all the ancillary agreements are entered into it one click, seamlessly integrated into the online sales process. We bring our online contracting process so that they can collapse the sales and contracting into one step.
Gotcha. Now, for those that would, for example, starting from scratch and want to engage because they know they need to have an agreement, they know they need to have NSOW, online, terms and conditions, privacy policies, things of that nature. I'm imagining then someone can go ahead, engage with the business, work with you to get onto the platform, and by really not having to do a lot of the manual items to try and assemble some of these things, like getting your terms and conditions, getting your online privacy policies and things of that nature together. What I'm understanding is that by engaging with your business and kind of working through with your team and your members at the firm, this platform will allow them to help automate some of these things and continue to keep being updated so that you're not worrying about a manual process. Am I understanding that?
That's correct. So we deliver a simple Exhibit A, which includes all of the MSP's online terms and conditions. And then we give them the legal language to hook that exhibit into their sales quotes. So again, once the sales quote is entered into, the legal is completed. Now, with respect to the updating, we use a strategy called browser wrap. We didn't invent it. It was invented by all the big tech companies, and you know about it because if you look in your inbox, you see from these big companies all the time that in order to better serve you, they've updated their terms and conditions, and here's a summary of the changes. Well, we do the same thing for the MSPs, which means that from an administrative perspective of managing the portfolio of customer contracts, which candidly is the biggest asset that an MSP has at the time that they sell, the ability to manage that in a way that puts everybody on the latest terms and conditions with the most protections is how we're able to streamline the management of those contracts. So once they sign on with the MSP one time, then the MSP has the contractual right to give the updates via email or updates on the website.
I love that. I love that. And I hate to interrupt that because, Paco, you know as I do, one of the biggest problems is version control. So if you're managing version control, and that's in everything, that's from brochures and marketing pieces and sales pieces, along with especially contracts, like holy hell. So that's a big deal. And to be able to automate that, forget it. It's worth its weight in gold.
And I was actually just going to jump to you, Sean, real quick before you kind of jump off here, is that, really on when it comes to the contracts and trying to keep track of all the changes as they kind of go through, has that been something of a nightmare when you kind of were managing that throughout your history of maintaining agreements and things of that nature?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, I mean, again, when I think from a business perspective, you're always looking for operational efficiency, right? And if I can, and operational efficiency is only as good as the processes and the people and the technologies you have, right? And if you don't have the right person in place and you're trying to manage it and you're not maintaining this, it causes you a lot of problems. If you don't have the right technology in place, again, lots of problems. So it's so crucial because we all know that if something goes wrong in that contract, it takes you down a rabbit hole of just a bunch of apologies, a bunch of changes, a bunch of whatever. And eventually 2/3 of your staff is trying to help you solve the problem because the contract wasn't up to date or the legality was right. Again, so, and if you can automate that too, you've just taken away a huge chunk of my responsibilities. I can focus on working on my business as opposed to working in the business. So,
and it also removes the scary factor, right? And being able to where, sometimes a lot of MSPs are intimidated by working with exactly. Being able to work with legal counsel, being able to figure out what's the best proper, and then they just figure out a template will work, right? And so, Rob, when it comes to partners like that, and they're just really trying to understand and get involved, what is kind of the process that you help walk through them to help them understand what you're offering them, and then B, help walk them through that journey to understand that this is not a very daunting task as long as you do it in a phased approach?
Yeah, so the important things for us to discover, with any MSP are what are their recurring revenue services? So what managed services do they offer? Do they, for example, offer managed voice as an agent, or do they do it on their own paper? If they do it on their own paper, they need a VoIP service attachment. We want to understand what regulatory obligations they have. Do they do business with healthcare clients or financial services firms, or what states or countries do their customers do business in? Because that determines what kind of data processing agreement we have to prepare for them. And so those are the two things that are most important. And then as we think about our setup, we have separated what we call the schedule of services, which is the service descriptions that go in the contracts. We actually took them out, and we give those to our clients as a template, and they have to go through that as part of setup and define the services in the manner in which they're delivering them. In addition to that, we have something called the schedule of third-party services. This is our response to the Kaseya ransomware attacks and other vendor breaches that could have exposed MSPs to legal liability. We developed this schedule of third-party services. It comes pre-populated to our clients with over 170 vendors in the community today that our other MSP clients are using. And then as part of our setup, they have to tell us which ones of those vendors they're not using, and we take them off. And then if there are other vendors that aren't yet on our schedule, we add it for them, and that becomes their customized version of our schedule of third-party services. But what this document does is it not only allows our clients to engage in transparent IT, but it also serves as a waiver of the end user's right to sue the MSP for any act or omission of the third-party service. So rewind to the Kaseya incident. There's a ransomware attack. MSP has our schedule of third-party services, and Kaseya is on it with their end user agreement and their privacy policy. And the question is, the MSP gets sued. Well, I would feel much better as the defense attorney in that case, waiving that document that says, look, Judge, I've got a clear and unequivocal waiver of this client's right to sue me specifically related to this vendor's activity. You need to let my client out of the case. And I feel that with our schedule of third-party services, it gives the most legal protection against that channel vendor risk, which in my mind, together with criminal acts of third parties and negligence on the part of the MSP's customers, employees, are really the largest risks facing MSPs today.
Now, you mentioned, a great point, and I think waivers have become a very big talking point over the last several years, especially as you mentioned with some of the bigger incidents that have happened in our space. But I've heard kind of on both sides. I've heard that waivers are a great opportunity to explain, hey, you can keep the business, but now we have something documented that shows we told you what was going on, you chose not to do it, and this is what we have available. And then I've heard on the other side where waivers, sometimes that piece of paper may not hold up in court because of the way, depending on the agreement, was written. Now, is this something where, for those that listening, that a waiver is not as powerful unless the MSP agreement aligned with it will help it hold muster? Or is it one of those where you feel that waivers are good if they are written correctly, even if their agreements may not have been either updated or looked at in quite some time? Because the waivers, I feel, is a new thing that's being brought up to having clients signing those from either vendors or from templates that they may be trying to grab from.
Yeah, this has been a huge issue. In fact, you asked about the as a service aspect of what we do. Well, one of the things that we do is, as these big issues start to percolate in the community, we address them with updates. So the fundamental underlying concern that you're addressing, which I've heard from many MSPs, is I've got a client that I've made recommendations to about security, about multi-factor authentication, about upgrading old hardware that's not under warranty. And when I give them the proposal, they either ignore it or say, no, I'm not doing that, it's too expensive. Mm-hmm. And so how do you deal with a situation where you know that a client is not saying yes to a proposal, but that is also going to put that customer at risk of security incidents? And how, as the MSP, do you protect yourself if that happens? And right. So there was a debate about how to deal with that. Our MSA, as one of our critical updates, includes a provision in it that says security recommendations. Although we're not obligated to do so, we may from time to time give you security and compliance recommendations. For example, multi-factor authentication, close parentheses. Mm-hmm. If you fail to implement any recommended procedure or solution, that's on you, and we're not responsible for it. Now, other people have thought, let me send the client an agreement to sign, acknowledging the risk, which I and other lawyers in our space who I've heard speak on the topic agree is not the best way to go. Because what if they refuse to sign? You put all the power in their hands. A notice that says, I'm putting you on notice that under the terms of our agreement, I've made these recommendations and you haven't followed them. And there's a reminder that we're not going to be responsible, is what we consider the best practice. So we cover it in our master, and we tell our clients, if you're going to do it consistently and all the time, then send the notices. if you're going to be hit and miss with it and you're going to miss a lot of them, don't send any notices. Rest on what's in the MSA. But the best practice is language like what I mentioned in the MSA, followed up with a notice with no signature acknowledgement.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think also really what I'm hearing is that if those that engage with your firm and the on the Monjur platform, you really have not only the ability to keep the MSP up to date and in their corner essentially, and helping them, for a lack of a better term, CYA on a lot of the things that they may be trying to handle manually. And by doing it as a service, they now know they have someone in their corner to not only just have this ability to have all this information and the documentation and them automatically updated, but I imagine they can infer and reach out to you all if they have questions, if they have the ability of something they're not sure, rather than just playing a guessing game.
Yeah, these are our clients. We have a relationship with them. We've got a customer experience portal where they can reach out to us through messaging, email, phone calls. Many of these clients that are subscribers to the Monjur platform engage with the firm on other legal matters. And so they tend as a group to open more other legal matters than the non-subscribers. And we have a close relationship with all of them in the sense of, we consider them each unique clients. We look at the Monjur platform as a way for us to give them better services at a lower cost and at scale and on a business model that they understand, which is long-term recurring revenue.
Now, what countries do you support your partners in? Is it only US right now? Do you have other countries that you support as well?
We're currently only in the United States and Canada. We have on our roadmap to be in every US speaking country eventually, with an eye on the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand by the end of this year. And just to tell you, Paco, how we do that, we engage with lawyers in those local markets.
Okay.
And we collaborate with them on our templates. And then we develop master templates that are unique to each jurisdiction. And so once we've partnered with those lawyers and we have the jurisdiction-specific templates, then we go to market in those countries.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think the fact that, another plus for your platform is someone is not just assuming that they will have their documents reviewed by a local attorney in their prospective market, let alone ongoing support and updates to that. I think that's a huge piece to kind of highlight here, is that for those that do have that one-time check off, yeah, it's at that time, but who knows, in the matter of months, weeks, years, that something may change. You have to go back and update that. And with this as a service, as you mentioned, this is kind of consistently being updated and really in the corner of the clients. Now, really quick, Rob, if someone wanted to engage with you on the Monjur platform, what is the best way, or kind of walk me through the process of how they would engage your company and sign up to be a partner/client?
The first step is usually a meeting, a consultation where we visit with them about what they're doing today, what quoting tools they're using, what managed services they're currently offering, what managed services they're interested in offering in the near future, what their regulatory, framework looks like from a perspective of what customers they serve in vertical industries or geographic markets. And then we show them our solution in a demonstration. And usually at the end of that demonstration, if they're interested, we have enough information to configure a quote for them, which is custom to all to each MSP. And it's a real simple process. All of that can be done in a matter of days. And one of the things that's happened about us reimagining our firm from a traditional law firm to a SaaS-enabled legal service is the timeframes. We used to tell clients that they could get their documents in a week. Now they get their documents in no less than 48 hours. Just the speed at which we're able to respond to our clients has been significantly enhanced by the Monjur platform. And So, if there was an MSP who knew that they'd been procrastinating, who knew that they needed to get their customer contracts addressed, but were waiting for someone and somehow a path to get that done without beating their head up against the wall. This is something that can be done in 30 days, soup to nuts, integrated into their existing quoting solutions. And as I said, documents that they could start using right away within 2 days.
That's awesome. Now, one last question I'll have for you, and then I would love to round out the show for those that are interested, how they can reach out to you. When it comes to introducing a change, so for some of us that may have a contract already, but it hasn't been updated in quite some time, or they haven't had an attorney review it, what would you say is the best process for, they've worked with your platform and your firm, they've got their contracts and all of their terms and conditions and everything updated, now it's going back to the client to re-sign and update their current agreements that they have. Have you seen, or could you maybe provide some guidance on what is the best way to kind of reintroduce this new contract for them to sign, maybe for someone that may have just updated their pricing or may have just updated their plans? Is that something you discuss with them during the kind of rollout process? And if there's anything you could share for those that may be considering updating their contracts and reintroducing it to their clients, but they feel it's a hassle to do so, and this would be the kick to do.
Yeah, it is a hassle. There's no magic pill for this. I think the easiest thing to do would be to say, I'm just going to focus on net new quotes coming out of my quoting tool, and I'm going to sell my way out of it over time. That's option A.
Roger that.
That's real easy. The second one that we've seen a lot is moving forward with a price change, which you mentioned. A lot of people have already done that. Some have not. And some who did it early around, say, NCE initially, could be coming around to a point where another price change, at least with respect to certain services or certain components, could be appropriate. So a price change is always a reason to get in front of them with something to sign, a new quote, right? And then in addition to that, anytime they order other things, we advise our clients, put our Schedule A of the online terms and conditions on all quotes. So someone buys a new network server, someone buys a new phone system, someone, whatever, buys a project, right? Yeah. You can include our terms and conditions on all of your quotes going forward. And then anytime someone does any business with you, they have to be on the new platform. And once they do that once, it triggers that browser wrap feature, which gives us the right to update the terms and conditions in our discretion, and then give the end user notice either through email or updates on the MSP's website.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, I figure I want to ask because I know that for those that have either considered it, but those that may be doing it, having those changes sometimes tend to be a little bit difficult. I know another strategy that MSPs will use is the insurance conversation, where their insurance companies, or if they've renewed, hey, we need to have these contracts in these certain ways, and the insurance brokers can kind of quote unquote take the blunt of that as they're introducing it as well. So all great points, as you just mentioned, Rob. I want to really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out and talking with us today, and really going on through the platform, but really diving into, the purpose of it and what the problems we're trying to solve, what the Monjur platform is really trying to solve for MSPs. For those that want to engage with your firm and learn more about the platform and join on as a client / partner, what's the best way for them to do so?
So for MSPs that are looking for comprehensive legal protections, you can contact us however you like. We're online at Monjur.com. You can reach me at rscott@monjur.com. You can find me all over the internet as a tech attorney at Scott & Scott LLP, which, as you know, I have been doing since 1999. So reach out to us in whatever way is convenient for you: telephone, email, via LinkedIn, Reddit, whatever platform you're on. Reach out to us, and we'll get a call scheduled, and we'll talk to you about what your goals are and how we can help you address any legal concerns you have.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I'm definitely impressed with the service and the platform and wish you much luck for sure. I think this is something that is definitely a need and really an available resource for those that may have been, as I mentioned before, a little bit not so sure, intimidated by trying to figure out legal counsel and just really trying to figure out how to engage with some type of legal services, and engaging with your firm and platform can be a start for them as they kind of continue their journey as an MSP. So I really appreciate your time and coming talking with us today. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Tune in every Wednesday and Thursday to catch more of this series. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. We want to thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.